I received an email from Brendan, and he wanted to know how can he improve his sport-specific biomechanics. And I thought this was an interesting question for everybody to hear. If you have followed me for any period of time, you know I'm a huge advocate of striking an accord or a balance between strength and flexibility. This is imperative to make sure that you have good joint health. The balance of strength and flexibility around the knee, which would be your quads and your hamstrings, bicep to tricep around the elbow. When it comes to optimizing sport-specific biomechanics, this is something that people have a tendency to overlook, and that is balance. If we know that we're working on our overall strength, and we're going to make an assumption here that the strength is very sport-specific, if we look at the idea that you're building muscular endurance, again, very sport specific, the part that most people have a tendency to overlook is proprioceptive balance, particularly when the muscles start to become fatigued. And this is where you'll notice all of these start to integrate like a piece of a puzzle. We always say strength without flexibility is counterproductive. Flexibility without strength is not helpful and or useful at all. But then when you start to get into secondary muscular fatigue, now I don't want that to sound intimidating. When you're lifting weights, what you're doing is you're strengthening the most obvious muscles, but what you're also doing is activating the more subtle muscles, which is secondary movers. So when you're out doing something for an extended period of time and you start to feel that muscular fatigue kick in, that's where your strength training is going to be very, very helpful. And we get down literally to a neuromuscular level. A quick example would be when you go to lift a gallon of milk and your brain thinks that that's approximately 8 pounds, it's half empty. It sends a message to the arm to pick up 8 pounds, and when it's empty, you smash it against the ceiling of the refrigerator. That's a very simple example. Strength training has a tremendous amount of benefits when it comes to offsetting fatigue. So whether you want to say that lifting weights allows you to go fast, that's obviously part of the equation. Be able to sustain speed for an extended period of time, muscular endurance. But the variable that we see people forgetting about is proprioceptive balance. Your ability to stay in good biomechanical form requires balance in a three-dimensional plane that has to be complemented. I'm going to go down a bunny trail here. Your three-dimensional plane of movement has to be met with stabilized blood sugar. This is why diet and stabilizing blood sugar levels are so important. As you're in a sport-specific mode of trying to be more efficient, it requires a lot of brain power. Your liver, your liver feeds your brain. So if you don't have stabilized blood sugar and you have less than desirable results, it's not always about fitness. A lot of times it has to do simply blood sugar levels. So coming back to the concept of Brandon's question here today, how do you improve biomechanics? Actually work on proprioceptive balance. You can do things like standing on one leg, brushing your teeth. Think about that. When I stand on one leg, I break the obvious left and right. When I'm moving my arm in front, brushing my teeth, I'm throwing off the balance. The muscles on the back side of my body, the posterior side, have to counterbalance what I'm doing on the front side. And then what's going on above and below the belly button. Those are the three dimensions of movement. Left, right, front, back, top, and bottom. No matter what sport you're involved in, you can always apply those three dimensions of movement. So brushing your teeth on one leg, standing on one leg at the grocery store, any chance that you get to lift standing on one leg and removing equipment. That way you're working proprioceptive balance as you build sport-specific strength. I could go on and give you a multitude of examples, but the idea here is understand the value of balance. Make sure that you train it, make sure that you stress it, make sure that you implement it as often as possible, and then make sure that your strength and your flexibility, sport-specific, complements that. And that's your perfect trio. I guess you could add a fourth component, which would be stabilizing blood sugar levels on top of it and coming in well rested. And now you have the foundation to really elevate your game. So I hope that answers Brandon's question. I hope it makes sense to you as well. If you happen to have a question like Brandon did, please do me a favor and send me an email, contact@coachrob.com. We're answering a question every day here on YouTube. So I want to thank you for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.